everyone, I just wanted to give you a tutorial for Dirga Pranayama, or 3-part breath, which is one of my very favourite pranayama practices. And we'll get right to that in a minute. Just before we do, I just wanted to have a quick discussion about the word pranayama and the understanding of what pranayama means. Now, typically, particularly for those of us not as familiar with yogic tradition, pranayama is translated to mean breath control. However, that definition, although not incorrect, in my opinion, is incomplete. And I think one of the easiest ways to understand this is by us breaking down the word pranayama. Now, many of you will know prana is this intelligent, intuitive force, this life force energy or vital life principle that flows in and around us at all times. It's what animates us as living, sentient beings, and we draw that energy in on our breath. Now, prana and yama, the word yama means restraint or control. So you can understand where the definition of breath control has come from. However, pran, which translates, without getting too technical, translates as to breathe, and ayama means to expand or to extend. So pranayama not only is breath control or life force energy control, but life force energy and breath expansion and extension. And I think it's really important to remember that when we hear pranayama be reduced to a simple breathing exercises. Yes, we do utilize our breath as the tool of the practice, but there's a huge spiritual element and powerful philosophy behind it that sometimes gets overlooked and underappreciated. And I just wanted you guys to be a little bit better informed with that if you didn't already know those things. So we'll get straight on with it. Dirga Pranayama, or 3-part breath. So my favourite way to practice this pranayama is actually lay down in constructive rest. So that's supine on my back with my legs drawn up, bent a comfortable distance from my buttocks. Sometimes I'll let my knees stay straight to the sky, sometimes I'll bring them to rest together gently, almost like a house of cards. And from here, I feel that I can better appreciate the movement of my breath, both against the feedback of the mat on which I'm laying and when I come to draw my hands onto my chest. So as with any pranayama practice, we begin by centering ourselves, connecting to our breath. And it may be that you wish to draw the eyes to the close. I certainly have a tendency to do that when practicing, but if that doesn't feel safe or comfortable for you, then you can simply soften the gaze. That's just relaxing the focus, softening the eyes to gaze at a point somewhere beyond the horizon or beyond our view. And from this point, we're going to take our hands to our lower ribs. So our ribs are huge structures. They come right up under the clavicles here, the apices, all the way down under the ribs to where they meet the torso. So they're huge, big wing-like structures. You have 3 lobes on the right side and 2 lobes on the left. And obviously your heart and other vital vessels sit here, almost enveloped in the left lobe. So when our hands are on the bottom of our rib cage, we've got them over the lung bases. We're just going to use that feedback of the hands to appreciate the breath movement within our chest. So you'll find that on the inhale, you can see, if you are watching the screen, that my hands, my fingertips, draw up and away from one another on the inhale and move towards each other and down on the exhale. And I'm going to imagine on my in-breath that I draw the breath all the way in down to the bottom of my lungs. expanding and contracting with my own breath pattern in my own time. You don't have to follow me. Filling those bases, appreciating the vast structure of the lungs, and then we can direct our breath all the way down there where the diaphragm sits. When we're ready, moving the hands up, perhaps to the middle chest. Some people prefer slightly higher up. Find what works for you. Again, appreciating the feedback of the breath here. And this time on the in-breath, we're going to draw into the bases where the hands just were, and sipping a little bit more air in to draw the air up, almost as if we're filling a vase or another vessel to under where our hands rest now. Exhaling to empty from under the hands as they are now, emptying, 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 emptying out to the bases on the exhale. Inhaling to draw in, filling from the bases up to the mid-ribs, exhaling from the mid-ribs to the lower ribs. One more time here together. Inhaling into the bases, into the middle ribs, exhaling middle ribs and bases. Remembering that you can take as long as you need in each of these stages, finding what works for you. There's no set amount of time that you have to spend. Lastly, we're going to put our hands over our collarbones. Again, find what works for you. I like to have my fingertips into my neck and my index fingers just hooked over my collarbones, so I can really appreciate as these apices fill here, because they fill up as well as out. And this time on my in-breath, not only am I drawing life force energy breath into my lower ribs, my middle ribs, but also into my lung apices, right under my collarbones, exhaling from my collarbones, my middle ribs, and my lower ribs. Inhaling, lower ribs, middle ribs, under the collarbones. And you can hear I'm pausing the breath to talk to you, but the idea is for it to be smooth and steady. Filling from the bottom up, just like we're filling a vase, and on the exhale, as if we were emptying the vase from the top, the middle to the bottom. Doing that for as many rounds as we want, as many as feels comfortable before releasing the hands. In noticing the effects of that practice on our breath. It tends to be that it has naturally smoothed, steadied, and extended the breath. Often has a very calming and centering and grounding effect. The feedback from the hands can be a very nice tool to anchor us in our physical bodies. And when we're ready, moving upwards, onwards into the rest of our days. I hope you found that useful and that you enjoy the practice. Please let me know how you get on.